Hey, if you're pushing yourself to be your personal best, in fact, if you want to not just be your own personal best, you want to be the best on your team, the best in your organization, the best in your industry, you, my friend, are a very rare creature. Somebody who in this today's society who celebrates and elevates mediocrity is needed more than you realize. But be careful. It's very easy to overdo it and push yourself into burnout. Like I tell my friends, like I tell my clients, like I tell my teams, don't be perfect, just be awesome. The key is not just being awesome once, the key is establishing consistency with your awesomeness. If I learned anything as a naval aviator, it was how to be consistently great and how to elevate and up your game with consistency and stay at that level. I'm going to share with you something I learned as a naval aviator that you can start implementing right here, right now, today in your business and life in this episode of the True Driven Podcast. What's up, my friends? JT DeVolt with you today for the True Driven Podcast, the home of the few, the true, the driven, those remarkable people we call the True Driven. And I say good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, whatever time it is for you, no matter where you might be tuning in from on the Big Blue Marble. Thank you for joining me here on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and of course, YouTube, youtube.com/JT DeVolt. Make sure you get yourself over there, hit the subscribe button so that you can stay in the know and be the first to know when I bring you new content each and every single week. Now, we talk a lot about the importance of you being your absolute best. And I know you come here because you want to learn how to not just be great, but to stay great. You hear this a lot of times about, people who hit kind of these high marks of execution in their business. They get great results, but then they kind of drop off. This happens a lot with people with their fitness. They get really great and really strong and, super lean, and then all of a sudden they kind of let themselves go. What causes a person to hit a high level of performance or a high level of results and then drop off and sort of squeeze their way back into that easy life of almost mediocrity? I know that wouldn't happen for you, but let's just talk about how it does happen. Because as a true driven, you have to know that you will not hit every single target you shoot at. It would be awesome if you accomplished every single goal you went after, but you and I both know the size of the goals you're going after, the impact you're here to make, the stakes, the big and growing and high stakes that are against you right now as you go after those extremely large, competitive, and challenging goals. It's going to be damn hard for you to hit a high level of excellence and stay there, but it's not impossible. I'm going to show you something I learned as a naval aviator because, frankly, flying in the Navy, one of the most competitive environments in the world. The best of the best apply, and about 80% of them don't even make it. Get that? 82% of people who show up to flight school, who actually get accepted, don't finish and get their wings. Now, it doesn't mean that they're not good people. It doesn't mean that they're not awesome or that they couldn't be great aviators. But it takes more than just skill to get through flight training. It takes more than just the ability to fly an aircraft to get your wings and graduate and go be an operational naval aviator and go out and fly combat missions or any other mission. It requires so much more than that. And whatever mission you're on right now, whether it's business, whether it's your career, whether it's your family, it doesn't matter. You know that you have high standards for yourself. And the ability to execute and maintain those high standards is pertinent to you living an excellent life. I want to share with you a principle that we used to live by. And it's kind of a quick little saying, but it drives the point home. When we flew our missions, it didn't matter whether it was a training mission, a combat mission, or anything in between. We had one central focus. Just get the X. Just get the X. Now, what the heck does that mean? Well, the X was literally a mark, an X, on the flight schedule that stated that you completed the mission. That's it. So to say just get the X is a very simplified way of saying accomplish the mission. Do the damn job, but do it to completion. Not just show up, half-ass your way through it. Get the job done. And when it comes to flying military aircraft, You can't just kind of half-ass your way through it. You got to be at a very high level, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Because there's a bunch of guys standing behind you willing to do that same job if you can't do it. But it's interesting that when you get into a high-performance culture like naval aviation, it tends to attract the most remarkable people. And as proud as I am of the missions I flew, as awesome as it was to fly the high-performance aircraft and the high-performance equipment that I was entrusted with, it was the honor of being able to be in the same room with some of the most remarkable people I will ever know. Just knowing I was qualified to be in the same space with those folks, that right there was the most awesome part of being a naval aviator. And I would guess that anybody that was in the tip of the spear realm of military would agree, right? If you're in a situation where you're working with elite people, if you're in business right now, you're in your career, whatever it is, and you're operating at a high level, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So it's incumbent upon us, if we're going to be at that high level, to stay at the high level. There was an old saying, it's one thing to graduate and get your wings, but it's another thing to keep the wings. It's not about resting on your laurels. When you get the X, that means mission accomplished. What's next? So let's talk about what it means to actually accomplish the mission, and more importantly, what it means to live at a high, consistent level. If you think about anything that ever has been tracked in terms of like a market, let's say the real estate market, the stock market, the gold market, you name it, whatever it is, you'll note that if you look at it, you'll see that it has highs and lows, right? There's a peak and then there's a drop. There's a peak and there's a drop. And if you just look at those things moment to moment, it can be almost chaotic. But if you step back and you look at the big picture and the overarching sort of story of the historical trend that was going on with those markets, you'll notice from day one until current day, there's an upward trend overall. When you're committed to personal excellence, that's exactly what you're going for. You're not going for every single day being a banner day. You're not going for every single day being perfection. In fact, if you do that, you will likely burn yourself out. You will put yourself into a state of absolute misery. Like I tell my friends, like I tell my teams, like I tell my clients, don't be perfect, just be awesome. Now look, that in and of itself is a pretty heavy duty command, right? Don't be perfect is one thing, because perfection is really just for people that are looking for a way out. It's frankly a cowardly behavior. For people to say, ooh, I'm a perfectionist. I can take a look at their performance and find places where they purposely looked for a way out. They were looking for an excuse. They were looking for a reason to quit, back down, lay off the gas pedal or whatever. Well, it wasn't perfect, so therefore, fill in the blank with your excuse. But people who are committed to being awesome know that it's not just about being okay. It's not just about being average. It's about being your absolute best each and every single day. Don't be perfect, just be awesome is a challenge. It's a rally cry for the true driven and the leader to give their absolute best 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So if you're up for that challenge and you're willing to kick to the curb that whole notion of perfection, then strap in and let's go. I want to talk to you about what it means to get the X. You can implement this in whatever it is you're doing, whatever big mission you're on in your business or in your life. Whether you are building a business or you're working for somebody else's business. Whether you're building a career that you're proud of, it doesn't matter what it is. I could care less as long as it's important to you. If it's something that you are committed to being awesome at, being the best at, being your best at, then you're going to need to get the X. And what that means is every single day being able to say that you accomplished the mission. I've literally used this for working out. I have a small tracker, just a really cheap like $2 paper tracker, graph paper, and I will mark an X on the day of the week every time I show up and work out. The idea is to get a string of X's and not let that string break. So however you define a mission, however you define what it takes to accomplish that, to actually get the X, that's what I want you to do. And here's how to do it. Step number one is you have to be extremely clear on what the mission is. What is it you're here to achieve? What is it you're here to do? What is it you're here to accomplish? whatever that mission looks like. If you've heard me talk about in past episodes about the big four, you'll remember it's values, vision, mission, and purpose. Values, vision, mission, and purpose. Your mission is something that is finite. It's going to have a start and end date. Your vision is something that's like kind of like the overarching theme of your life, but your mission, you're going to have several missions throughout your life. The challenge is, how clear are you on that mission right now? How much can you articulate in precise ways what you are actually here to do? Because the more simple you can make it, the more precise you can convey it, that will tell you how much you understand the mission. And the degree to which you understand the mission is the degree to which, or I should say the probability of which you will succeed and accomplish that mission. The more precise, the more clear you are in understanding the mission, the higher your probability of success. So if you want to get the X, you've got to be extremely clear on the mission. Take the time right now and just think about this. What's the mission I'm on? Ask yourself that question. Write it down. What's my mission? And then be able to articulate, write down what is the actual mission. Can you state it in a sentence? Can you state it in fewer words than you state it right now? Could you say it to somebody who has no concept of who you are, no concept of what you do, and speak it to them and have them understand it? That's a great litmus test for whether or not you're clear on the mission. But if you want to have a high level of consistency, not just a high level of performance and a high level of excellence, but consistently, predictably excellent, you have to be super clear on the mission, what you are here to accomplish, and what that really truly means. Next, in order to accomplish the mission consistently and keep going, you've got to set and maintain high standards. Now, let me be clear on this. When I flew in the Navy, I was surrounded by the best aviators in the world, hands down. We had extremely high standards. But those standards weren't just for the results that we were shooting for. The results were actually a byproduct of the high standards we had for how we showed up, how we performed, how we carried and conducted ourselves. So start taking a look at yourself and asking, am I the professional I need to be? Am I that dude or dudette that needs to show up and be the absolute best? Do you even see yourself as that standard bearer? Do you see yourself as the tone setter? Not the trend setter, the tone setter. Do you set the tone? When you walk in the room, do they go, holy shit, they're here. He's here, she's here, whatever, right? Do they say that when you walk in, or do they think that? Now, if they don't, it doesn't mean you're not setting the tone. It just might mean that's how they see you. But more importantly, do you see yourself that way? Do you set high standards for how you show up? Do you set high standards for how you perform, how you prepare, how you execute, how you follow through? All of those things dictate your results. People will say, well, listen, I had a great plan, but it's just not working out. Before you throw that plan out, make sure that you're taking a look at not just the plan itself, but the execution. And not just the execution, but the follow through. Because sometimes you're going to get your ass kicked. You already know this. I'm just reminding you of the obvious. If things don't work out on the first stroke, it's going to be imperative that you be able to do what's necessary to actually make the adjustments, which actually is step 3 to getting the X. It's the ability to track, evaluate, and adjust. If you can track, evaluate, and adjust, you will not only hit your X, but you'll actually start to do it with more efficiency and more precision, more excellence. Most people, when they go about things, they look at what they're doing and they wonder, how come I'm not getting better results? What is it I need to do to improve? And my simple question is, what are you tracking? Are you tracking it? Are you taking a look at what time you show up, how late you stay, how many calls you've made, what your close rate is? Because if you say to yourself, look, I've got, let's say 50 leads, I'm going to close all 50. What happens if you miss on that first one? Now all of a sudden, your standard that you set, well, I set a high standard. It's an impossible standard. But if you set a high standard, let's say you're going to close 80% or 60% or 50%, and you miss on the first one, what are you going to do in order to make sure that next one is a win? And you've got to be able to track to ensure you're even hitting the standards, the high standards you've set for yourself. Not impossible standards, high standards. Standards of excellence. What's interesting to me is to hear how many people get frustrated at the first go. The first time they get in the ring and they get punched in the face, they say to themselves, wow, this is more than I thought. To which I say, welcome to the game. The whole idea of being able to be excellent is you have to be able to track, evaluate, and adjust. Meaning I'm watching what I'm doing. I'm going to step back objectively and take a look and go, okay, what worked? What didn't work? And then what's the tweak? What's the adjustment that needs to be made right here, right now? Because the shorter the distance between the input of information and the adjustment to that information, that is going to dictate how quickly you get back on track. So if you got knocked off track, if something's not working out in your business, something's not working out with your fitness, let's say you were working out, you were super consistent, then all of a sudden you fell off the train. In order to keep yourself from continually spiraling down, you have to be able to arrest that descent by saying, I've been tracking it, and to this point, everything's been going great, and then, that's the thing that threw me off. The holiday, the birthday, the whatever, the unforeseen celebration, I ate the cake, drank the beer, whatever it is, fell off the wagon. Well, guess what? Today's a new day. What are you going to do about it? That's what the adjustment's about. Now, the adjustment piece is important when you have the next step in mind. Step 4 is to strive for improvement, not perfection. Strive for improvement, not perfection, because we're not here to be perfect. As I said before, don't be perfect, just be awesome. Improvement is that indication that you're pretty awesome. Because what that says is, I'm not okay with the way things are. I have high standards for myself. I have expectations to fulfill on those standards. I hold myself to that standard because I honor who I am. I recognize my excellence. I understand that I have the character strength and the traits that are in alignment with this level of excellence. So it makes all the sense in the world to have standards up here, not impossibly high standards, but the standards you know you can hit. And then once you hit those, you continue to improve, improve, and improve. That's the mark of a true professional. That's the mark of a true driven. That's the mark of excellence, is the ability to say it's not about perfection, it's about improvement. To be excited, to be fired up, to be fucking stoked at the idea of being able to improve, even if it's just 1% each day. That subtle improvement is what actually brings on the growth. That subtle improvement is the thing that brings on the innovations, the ideas that cause you to do things better, to be able to lead more effectively, to be able to show your people, this is what I did, this is what I learned, here's how you can do it better, cut through that bullshit, and hopefully decrease some of their pain. What's most important, my friend, as a leader, is the ability to say, not only do I have high standards for myself, but I have an understanding of what to do to improve on those high standards. That's what excellence truly is. And so when you have clarity with that, you can actually execute on the 5th step to getting the X. And that is, you keep pushing the edge of the envelope. Keep pushing the edge of your personal envelope. Whatever that means to you. Sometimes that means doing more. Sometimes that means doing less. Sometimes that means adding a small little tweak to it. Sometimes instead of just simply showing up, it's about showing up with more gratitude, showing up with more enthusiasm, showing up with more confidence, showing up with more conviction. Whatever that represents for you, that's the beautiful part, is you get to define what it means to you to push your own personal excellence. You get to define what it means to push your own edge of your own envelope. And when you do, and you stretch it inch by inch, percentage by percentage, little pieces at a time, you extend the reign of excellence in your own life. You extend that circle of influence that you create on the world around you. You have the opportunity to lead more people, inspire more people, but more importantly, to be able to guide them, not just through motivation and excitement, but to be able to demonstrate to them what it truly means to be excellent, not through your words, but through your actions. Getting the X is a simple principle. We used it as naval aviators, and all it meant was accomplish the mission. Accomplish the mission not at all costs. Accomplish the mission with a sense of purpose, with a sense of being excellent, which meant understanding the mission, which meant having high standards, setting those standards and holding them for ourselves and for each other. I'll tell you, man, one of the most competitive environments you can be in is a top-tier military unit. Doesn't matter what service, doesn't matter what branch. I love all you guys. We talk shit to each other, I know that, especially you Army guys. You Marines aren't any better. But my point is this, is it doesn't matter whether you're Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, Coast Guard, does not matter. It doesn't matter whether you were Special Forces or whether you were somebody working in an office. The fact of the matter is, if you are going to get the X and accomplish the mission, you have to know what the mission is. You have to be very clear on that mission. You have to be able to distill it down to where you fully understand it and help other people to understand it as well. If you're working in a business, if you're building a business, if you're helping others build theirs, be very clear on what that mission looks like. Set and maintain high standards, not just for other people. It starts with you. Those high standards have to start with you. It's one thing to say, hey, this is where the standard is, and if you're not meeting it, but you're requiring everybody that leads or that follows you to hold those standards, that's unacceptable, my friend. It's about owning the standard. It's about setting the tone, setting the standard through your behavior, not your words. It's about that constant improvement, not perfection, but constantly seeking through tracking, evaluating, and adjusting. How do we create better performance? How do we create a better experience for our team, for our clients, whomever it might be? How do we establish ourselves as that true leader in our industry, in the organization, on the team, whatever that might be? But it's about being clear, not just on the standard, but being clear on where we're going with this through the tracking of the efforts, the evaluation of the results, and the adjustments on the fly. And then, of course, it's that commitment to continued improvement by pushing the edge of the envelope. 1% each day. Not leaps and bounds. Believe it or not, the small incremental improvements, that commitment to just being a little bit better each and every single day, that's actually what creates the leaps and bounds. So you'll see people that you'll go, wow, they really grew by leaps and bounds. That's because that person likely had a focus on slow, steady, subtle improvement over time. The improvement skyrockets itself. It's a compounding effect. It's a beautiful thing. So if you have a force multiplier to focus on, instead of focusing on being awesome all at once, focus on slow, steady improvement. Small, steady improvements that you make through the tracking, evaluation, and adjustments in everything you do in your business, your career, your life. Get the X. Accomplish the mission. Do it with a sense of purpose. Do it with a sense of pride. Do it with a sense of setting those high standards for personal excellence and setting the example for everyone around you. That's how you get the X. All right, my friends, I appreciate you. Make sure that you are sharing this with fellow True Drivens out there that need to hear this message. Give us a follow on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and of course, YouTube, youtube.com/JTDeBolt. Hit that subscribe button so that you can be notified when this new episode comes out. And remember, no matter what course you fly in life, fly high, fly fast, and fly far, stay driven.